Hey guys, I'm here to get into Longlegs, was directed in 2024 by Osgood Perkins, and this just increasingly reveals itself as just one of the most groundbreaking depictions I've ever seen of just slow burner psychological examination on psychopathy. And I mean, every scene just manages to conjure a very unique sense of dread, and I really just needed a lot of time to further acquire to this one. But I think with time, I kind of see a lot of elements of just Jonathan Demme and David Fincher and Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and I just love Nicolas Cage particularly here, as he's just very terrifying. As he's just seems like someone who's just really just experienced a lot of trauma in his life. It's just an absolute masterpiece of just looming dread that I think I needed two viewings to fully appreciate this one because I think the influence is a lot like David Fincher films, which I always was the case with his 90s project. This reminds me a lot of David Fincher's 90s stuff, particularly. Nicolas Cage is terrifying here, as he's very realistic. It's just like a full-on Satanist kind of like character. Much reminds me a lot of like influenced by Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. He's not even in it that much. Maybe like 20 minutes worth of screen time. But again, also kind of like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. It's Mika Monroe's performance, I think, that really elevates this to the next level, because I found this character extremely subtle, and I think that really revealed itself to me on a second viewing. I think the first time around, I was just too awestruck by Nicolas Cage, and I'm like, dang, I kind of, once I got to the balance of that, it was like this adventure. It's like you take it in the balance of all the perspectives, which is the film was open-minded to numerous perspectives. I think a second viewing just really makes this an all-time masterpiece, and this is just a really subtle kind of film that I needed a few viewings to fully appreciate its depth and subtlety. I just really love how this just kind of alludes to glam rock influence on Nicolas Cage's, and it almost just makes like it just feels a little. Silence of the Lambs has that too. I associate a lot also with like an extremely homely aesthetic, and it kind of like it has this atmosphere where it seems like evil is a bit of a consistently dominating looming force, and it's the way it's conveyed is just very down to earth and it's also very haunting. Which also, I've watched season 1 of the X-Files, and this reminds me a lot of that as well. Osgood Perkins' directing reminds me a lot of the X-Files, and yeah, I really love the punk perspective as well as well. And I think that also I was fresh off rewatching Adaptation, which was kind of a mind-bending, life-changing sort of film for me in a lot of ways. But I think this is almost such a wildly different kind of perspective from Cage. So I definitely needed a second viewing to fully appreciate this one in a lot of ways. So yeah, this film just ultimately has a lot of dread to it, you could say. It's really intimidating, and it just kind of feels like Nicolas Cage really seems like someone who would like kind of give you some trauma. That's just the way he feels in his brief moments here with a very helpless kind of way. Just let him get lost in glam rock, and just that's sort of like the way it kind of depicts it all. This is a really effective modern horror film that really takes the best elements of a lot of these previous ones and just really elevates it to perfection. I really love Cage's performance here again. Very disturbing. Very. It's got a lot of insanity about it. Simply put, I really appreciate all this. So it's just extremely entertaining, extremely fascinating, extremely mind-bending, extremely intimidating. Like it just has a really haunting sort of atmosphere and a great soundtrack around it too. Incredible pacing. I mean, the pacing is a really slow burner, but it's really it kind of does have a masterful sense of it. Just gradually gets more intense as it goes in a lot of ways. And I just, man, that's just quite a masterful foundation. And yeah, the evil is very real in this sort of project. You can also, mention like Fincher, but also, I see a lot of David Lynch, a lot of Stanley Kubrick, a lot of Lars von Trier, and Denis Villeneuve, Ari Aster. There's just so much going on here. And I think that's just, it's creepy. It really feels like a creepy sort of, it's subtle, extremely subtle. Just getting lost into something of a satanic maze and just trying to figure out what to do with all that. So yeah, this is just a masterful psychological horror film, and it's very original, very strongly recommended from start to finish. There's some electrifying horror.